If I had to sum up the whole process of this EP in one word,
Long.
fuck.
Who are you and what do you do in the band?
I'm Steve. I play guitar and I do vocals.
My name is Matthew Rees. I play the bass guitar for End of the Line, and I also do the work as our recording and mixing engineer.
The hardest part about making the EP was everything. It was just crawling through cement trying to make this fucking thing.
It took a lot of work trying to come up with compelling bass lines and some of the drum rhythms for some of these songs, but once we got it all figured out and once we actually tracked it all in the DAW, that's the part where it all really came together for me.
So End of the Line formed, I think it was in 2000, late 2017, 2018. I know I tried out for a side project. Katie in Aletheia was trying to start like a pop punk side project, and I sent in a little like vocal audition tape.
They were playing at a skate shop that's near my house. I met up with her and she introduced me to Steve. But she introduced him to me as a singer, which I wasn't really interested in at the time. I was wanting to form a punk rock band, but I wanted a drummer at the time, so he's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
So we were outside of Royal Skate and Apparel, and we just hit it off. And I was like, yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna start a band. Trying to do something a little different. Everything kind of sounds the same. At least the Northwest Indiana scene, all the music sort of, like the heavy music at least, sort of blended together, and it was like carbon copy, little versions of the same sound. I was like, I want to, try to mix it up a little bit.
What eventually happened is I was having a pretty rough day several months forward from meeting him, and I was just doom scrolling through Facebook, and I saw that this radio station posted something as like, this album came out in 1992 or whatever it was. How old were you when this album came out? And so everyone else is saying how old they were in terms of years, and Steve writes this comment, and it's just one word: come. I about died laughing when I saw that. So I commented, replying to him, dude, thank you so much, I needed this laugh. And he's like, no problems, what I'm here for. And I think it was about a week later he replied to me on that same comment chain, hey, you want to write an EP? Sure, okay.
Recording vocals was a long process, because I know way back before I even started the band with Matt, I was in my shed at my dad's house. I gutted it and I put up like sound shit up on the walls. It was it was a piece of shit, but it was like, as far as recording demos, I was like, all right, this will do. So that's where I recorded like the primordial demo vocals for some of these songs, like 3-4 years ago, whatever it was. And then we upgraded from the shed to an actual studio. Actually, with Solomon's Thumb, like the third version of the demo vocals for that, I recorded it in my apartment. I took my closet in my bedroom, and I set up like a makeshift sound booth in there with sheets and blankets and shit.
Feast on the flesh of those who don't fit the mold in your army of PC culture. Clones born from unforgiveness. I'll rule you all, cause I'm one silver tongue sheep herding, gun toting, prodigal son.
that's how I did that one. And then finally we upgraded to this studio we're in now, and we did all the main vocals in here.
I think Steve has a great voice, he has a great delivery. I didn't have to try and direct him too much with things that sounded maybe a little bit off, or just whatever I don't think sounded quite right for that section of the song. The problem wasn't Steve, or his performance, or our gear necessarily. The problem was neighbors. Especially the neighbor right across the hall from us. We're in a rehearsal studio, unfortunately, which means that we have neighbors, and they just happen to come in at about the same time that we were able to come in to record. And that just creates headaches because, especially the guys right across the hall, they're all turned up to 11, you know? So I'm picking them up over Steve here on our microphones, and he's not exactly a quiet singer, you know?
No more compromise from me, your Jesus Christ. Now's the time to make that choice. Save your soul from the one that need your reckoning.
It was a little bit frustrating sometimes having to kind of cut out in the middle of a session because the neighbors started playing Seven Nation Army for the 5th time in a row, you know? So eventually it got to the point that we'd eventually just break for lunch when that would happen, and we'd come back and everything would be fine. Recording the bass guitar wasn't too difficult. I think things moved along most smoothly when it was just me here in the studio on my own.
Matt handled the bass himself. I mean, I was around for a little bit of it. You know, I offered just a second pair of ears, basically. But, yeah, Matt would be able to tell you more about that. I know that whatever he did, it sounded fucking cool.
On the one hand, Steve might have provided some quality control, but just, I would know, like right off the bat, if a section that I'd gone through, like if I did a bad take, so I would just stop what I'm doing, cut it, and then start it over again. So it was a very quick process to just sit right here at my computer and just play through a part. And, you know, for bass guitar, you want to play through long sections. It doesn't really sound right if you're trying to do short sections, like you can get away with on guitar. You can get away with guitar measure by measure, but for bass guitar, you gotta get long sections. Sometimes I feel like I cheated because, you know, bass guitar, a lot of the parts tend to be simpler. Even something like No Place For Me. People have told me it's one of their favorite bass lines from what they've heard on the EP. And for good reason. It's got moving parts, but that was sometimes difficult, but even then, I don't think I had too much of a problem with recording it. Overall, recording the bass guitar for the EP wasn't too bad. Before, there were some pretty bad takes that I had, and I did have to redo The Want the Need and Solomon's Thumb, because the person we had kind of sitting at the console there, he was kind of misjudging where where the recording should start. And so when I went back and listened to everything together, my bass part sounded just god-awful, and it made the guitar sound god-awful, and it made the drums sound god-awful. But once I figured out a system and like what exactly I'm looking for, things worked out a lot more smoothly from there. Recording guitars, it wasn't too difficult.
It was fun, but it was also a pain in the ass because, like, there's some really hard things in some of these songs, and, you know, I'm good, but, like, I write things that are, like, I can't play, and then I got to play them.
Some of the parts that Steve sent to me were very complicated, and it just kind of didn't really click with me at first until I kind of had to rack it around in my brain for a while. And the guitar solos especially took a lot of work, but it makes sense, you know, guitar solos are complicated. He has told me it's his least favorite part of the writing process, the guitar solos, and it might have been one of my least favorite parts of the recording process. No offense to him, you know, because again, he's a great guitarist, but trying to get it all perfect, Yeah, that can be a tall order sometimes.
There's some sections in some of the songs, like some of the rhythm sections, some of them I'll knock out 2-3 takes, like, all right, that's good. And then other ones, I'm there all day just hammering out this. I'm like, what the fuck? I did it. I know I can play it. I've done it. You know, I did it at home on my couch yesterday. I can't do it now when I'm under the gun. And some of the solos on here are fucking hard. Like the solo in No Place for Me. Like 2 months of practicing that. Like I had to slow it down to half speed, like less than half speed, especially that triplet run at the end. I had to slow it way down, and like, you know, an hour a day for 3 days a week, 4 days a week. I would just that one part I was hammering out, trying to get it so I could play the whole thing. And I think I got it in 2 takes actually. Or not 2 takes, but we took 2 different, you know, it wasn't like every note was comped in. I was proud about that.
There's some things I could do differently in the future. Some parts that I didn't originally double track that I should have, and that's kind of on me. Just, I had ideas of what I wanted, but I didn't really like double check with myself after the fact, and then it's like, well, I gotta fix this up because I'm not gonna torture Steve and make him record some of these parts over and over and over. It was hard enough the first time. But in the future, I think I'm gonna go out and torture him.
Recording drums was a fucking nightmare. We started with on an electric kit with our original drummer. We recorded a couple demos, and then things fell through. He left the band, and then it was just me and Matt again. So we were just kind of floating around for it was a year and change. We were just in limbo. And then we got Nico from Sawbuck. He recorded live drums for Solomon's Thumb and The Want the Need, but he had a lot on his plate going on. You know, he was like real overscheduled, so it didn't work out with him, and he had to leave the band. So then we just resorted to programming the drums, which I can't fucking stand. I have no patience for it.
I used to play drums back in middle school and early high school. Eventually I stopped playing drums, sold the kit and everything, but I still had a pretty good idea of what's physically possible on the kit and what you can reasonably write and have people think, yeah, that sounds like someone might have actually been playing that.
One of us would have an idea for a part and then send it over, and then it'd be, okay, that part's, or the other person would edit that part, and then it was like ping-ponging back and forth, section by section, and little ideas and fills.
Steve would write more complicated things that sounded cool, but like, you know, you're hitting 2 cymbals and the snare at the same time. I'm not so sure about that, man. But, you know, it sounded cool, so he went with it. The mixing process was where I tried to get it sounding as real and palatable as possible. It wasn't too bad trying to get the drums sounding good. The VST that I used is a pretty cheap one, honestly. It's available for free, but it kind of inconveniences you if you don't pay for it, so I just donated $7. And I think it's called MT Power Drum Kit 2, something like that, from Manda Audio? ? I'm pretty happy with how the recording programming process went for drums.
Can you describe the album art process?
No. Yeah. So
The album art process was actually really cool.
it came from an idea that I had in high school. I had this painting thing, and I think I got first place actually in the fucking art show. And I'm like, oh, that could maybe work, but it didn't. Like the original, what I came up with didn't quite jive. It looked shoddy, and Plus, it was like on different panels.
Steve I believe he brought his music stand, and then he had this like clay figure that he was able to pose however he wanted it to.
I like the idea of a guy like chain hanging up by chains or being weighed down by chains, but I can't really draw it, and I don't have money to pay anybody to do it, so I just got to figure out how to do it myself. So we wound up actually doing it in camera. We spent like an afternoon up in the studio here, and we set it up. I put the finishing touches on it, put the chains up.
And he kind of had it like looking like it was being pulled up by the chain in the center, and then there was also the chains connected to his limbs.
And it was originally supposed to be like just him hanging by the chains.
I'm like, hey, how about you line up the silhouette of your fingers so it looks like you're holding onto the chains too. I was laying on the ground. I took about 45 shots in a row, all within a span of about a minute, trying to get just the perfect shot, like waiting for his hand to just kind of like drift in the correct position.
It'd be like, nope, damn it, nope, nope, you gotta change that one. But it was all done in camera, which I was really proud of. I was like, oh, that's fucking cool. I don't know who else is doing that in the scene right now. My favorite part about making the EP was when it was done. I'm like, that's 3 years of my fucking life. Now I don't have to worry about it anymore. Now we can start working on new shit.
The hardest part of this EP was scheduling. It was very estranged at times. A lot of separation in the writing process, opposite schedules, Steve working like overnights and I was working during the day.
And that was like the hardest part was trying to get in 1 day a week. And then some days it'd be, oh, I can't come in this week. I got this going on, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it was just piecemeal together, this whole EP.
And as I said before, we'd have neighbors that are just blasting music right across the hall from us, and that would just completely kill a recording session sometimes, and it was frustrating. And even when I was mixing, I need to be able to hear these monitors, and I'm hearing them more than I'm hearing the music, even when I've got it kind of dialed up a bit,
It seemed like every step of the way there was fucking something. From like the start, from riff 1 till the final, whatever we recorded was the last thing. It was always fucking something.
It was satisfying to hear it all together, and you're doing a good job when, even before you've mixed it, it sounds pretty good. I can't actually pick a single song that I'm most excited for everyone to hear on the EP, because every single song has something different to offer to people. You've got Memento with its slow, laid back, emotional lyrics, emotional songwriting, and the bridge for that song is just fantastic to me. Fucking Invincible, this fast, thrashy metalcore, there's some parts where Steve's vocals just sound straight up demonic and is awesome. Solomon's Thumb is just a fantastic fucking song. That might be my favorite.
I think that one's really strong. It's the first song that we wrote fully as a band, and it's like, I think it's got a little bit of everything, and it's got like, at least as far as the guitar goes, it's got like, the weird pick scrapey shit. It's got a lot of time signature changes. It's heavy, it's melodic.
It's a bit of a competition between Solomon's Thumb, Fucking Invincible, and Memento, but even The Want the Need and No Place for Me have a lot to offer too. Our next step, I think, is I want to play live shows as soon as possible.
I'm just happy that we finally actually start playing some of this shit in front of people.
I know that we have at least 10 songs on the back burner. When the pandemic first started, we started writing even more songs, So we have, I would say, somewhere between 10 to 15 songs or song ideas just sitting around waiting for us to actually finish them. So we're definitely going to start working on an album, but I think live shows are going to come first because I've been most excited for that. And that was kind of my main drive, even when I first joined End of the Line.
I definitely got to give a shout out to Katie from Aletheia.
They are a great band. I've seen them live several times. And we're personally friends with some of the members of that band, so I love Aletheia, I love their music.
And you got Nico from Sawbuck.
He's a great guy too. He's one of the people who helped us kind of restructure the song Memento, because before it was a mishmash of all these random just a whole bunch of time signature changes, and it was just overcomplicated. But he helped make it a lot more cohesive. So I really do need to give a big shout out to Nico especially. But Sawbuck as a band, I've seen them plenty of times too. They're really fun to see. If you ever get a chance to see them, go, because it's a great time.
Plus Lou from Natural State. You know, a lot of this wouldn't have turned out the way it did if Lou wasn't in the picture, you know. I'm excited to just get the music out there finally, you know, and show everybody, like, hey, this is what we've been working on for years, and it's finally done and sounds, you know, good.